Hi, I'm Stephanie. I use computers to make art. And it's always been that way. Even when I was a painter, I'd paint in pixels. And now that I'm kind of a sculptor, I sculpt in pixels. I went to school for 3D in 2010, but then I realized that everything that you can learn with a 3D degree, you can learn on YouTube for free. And that doesn't cost $40,000. I'm sorry. I get really nervous when I have to talk in front of people, but I have a solution this time. I hope it's okay.
I make the most sense when I do not have to speak at all, when my language is free from my body. You get to thinking that you're really smart until you're approached with a problem you can definitively solve. I think philosophy is one of those issues, and that's why it bothers me so much. The answers you find are too personal. Problem is, art is the same way. I think my solution to that dispute was to separate myself, navigate through different states of mind while keeping an eye on my own growth as if I was out of body. It's why I don't like to talk in first person when I'm thinking, or writing, symbolic thoughts on paper. The rule is to never generalize, never assume, don't be so arrogant to pretend you know anything. Scientific reasoning is the only thing I have to fall back on when I enter states of paranoia. I've sacrificed so much of who I was that I find it hard to go back to the art I did in the past. It's not pointless, it just feels like I've gotten close enough to my threshold and I need more. By making these decisions, I all but abandoned the realm of emotion, petty desires and the need for social reassurance and human constructs. I found myself back in nature, trying to shed my humanity at the absolute disgust of what my species has accomplished, preferring the pursuit of natural truths, organized knowledge that attempts to explain our universe. If it could be explained, it keeps changing on us. I'm getting philosophical again. Problem is most people get bored by the actual science. Usually there's not much use in understanding collapsing wave functions or superpositions. I don't blame them. Modern public education is pretty successful at making many of us hate science and math. This isn't working either. It's not that I'm ashamed of anything. In fact, the opposite is true. I have no regrets.
What I do doesn't need to be verbalized. People interpret it their own way. What I'm concerned with now is the story of La Entidad. Personifying that entity was summoned after the sacrifice of someone's own humanity and became an analysis of infinite knowledge and energy through the eyes of illiterate mortals and wannabe scientists. The Road Warrior survival monomyth of the post-apocalyptic narrative is pretty played out. I'm trying to breach the subject from a different angle. I can't really say I know what I'm doing, but I have a lot of raw data. Pulled a lot of it from psychedelic rock. A friend of mine gave me her old thermodynamics textbook, and she showed me how to do some of the equations, which is pretty cool because I've never used equations to make artwork before. I used a program that I wrote to get data to use and to transfer that sine wave information into heat propagation errors. I think the reason why it's so important to me is because it's probably the only piece that's ever been finalized in any form. I'm usually pretty scatterbrained, and everything that I used to do is about dragons. Everything that I do now feels like it has to be deep in concept and ideas. It's not a bad thing. It's just that I really miss dragons. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be an artist.